Buried deep in the Siberian permafrost, a so-called giant virus was unearthed.
In recent years, there has been a change that has exposed ancient animals, altered its landscape.
Here you can see the map of Russia, and Siberia can be seen in the center of the map. Siberia is made up of Russia's central and eastern regions, extending from the Ural Mountains in the east to the Pacific Ocean. In addition, it stretches southward from the Arctic Ocean to northern Kazakhstan and the borders of China and Mongolia. Siberia makes up 5.1 million square miles, 13.1 million square kilometers, or 77% of the total area of Russia. As a result, it features a topography that is quite varied and spans a number of different geographic regions. The Western Siberian Plateau and the Central Siberian Plateau are Siberia's two main geographical regions nevertheless. Most of the Western Siberian Plateau is marshy and flat. Permafrost predominates in the northern portions of the plateau, whereas grasslands are found in the southern regions. Siberia, the supposedly coldest place on Earth, is experiencing record warm temperatures, melting sea ice, and massive wildfires. Environmental changes that even the scientists most urgently monitoring the climate crisis didn't expect to see for another several decades. Siberia's expanding doorway to hell and its enormous sinkhole are just two of the numerous and horrific discoveries that have been made in this region of Russia. Join us as we explore scientists' terrifying new discovery in Siberia that changes everything. Number 11. Methane massive sinkhole. The largest impact event ever recorded occurred over Tunguska, Siberia in 1908 when an asteroid or comet erupted, leaving a gigantic crater and being nearly 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb that destroyed Hiroshima. Well, a new massive crater recently appeared that is around 100 feet wide on the Yamal Peninsula in Siberia. In an effort to determine what caused this enormous hole, scientists have been analyzing it. This time it appears that the source is the release of methane brought on by the warming of the permafrost in Siberia. And although it doesn't make much sense, talk about coming in hot, some people believe the crater was caused by a UFO during its landing before scientists came up with this theory. Early on, scientists ruled out a meteorite as the explanation and surmised that the sinkhole was related to variations in tundra temperatures, even as far away as the Yamal Peninsula, a region so remote it is referred to as the end of the world. Even after dropping 165 feet into the crater, scientists were unable to lower a video camera all the way to the bottom. They believe there is water around 230 feet below the surface based on the video, which also showed the crater's interior dissolving and slumping inward. Researchers took measurements of the crater's air and discovered that it contained a particularly high concentration of methane, almost 10%, towards the bottom. Methane typically makes up 0.000179% of air, unless you're on Titan. Researchers think that the peninsula's record-breaking summers in 2012 and 2013, which were roughly 5 degrees Celsius hotter than usual, are what caused the methane rise. These higher temperatures caused the permafrost to thaw, which then allowed the frozen methane inside to escape. In Yamal, the Earth is typically covered by ice that is deep enough to keep the methane beneath it confined, keeping it stable. As temperatures rise, the gases trapped in the ice become unstable, release, and explode downward. This stability is therefore compromised. Despite the recent increase in summertime temperatures, some experts think that the only other scenario for the release of so much methane would be a longer, slower melting of the tundra. According to studies, the 65-foot deep permafrost has warmed by an average of 2 degrees Celsius over the last 20 years. Consequently, some experts think the crater is a result of long-term climate change. More sinkholes like this one are likely to occur as temperatures rise, and experts are concerned about what would happen if too many do so in one area. The local wildlife and plant life would also be in danger, not to mention any surrounding communities. However, that strategy presupposes knowledge of where the pressure is initially building up, which is difficult to determine. Some scientists believe that strategic drilling to relieve the pressure would help prevent more craters. Hey, the sinkhole might potentially be a doorway to another world. What if it leads to Narnia with Alan waiting? Number 10. Siberia's growing doorway to hell. Some refer to it as a portal to hell or a doorway to the afterlife, or they refer to it as a crater, but everyone acknowledges that it is expanding. Eastern Siberia's Batagaika crater, already the largest of its type, has been enlarging and shows no signs of slowing down anytime soon. The Yucatecan locals proceed cautiously in the area. They claim to have heard foreboding noises, which has led some to label it a portal to the abyss, but the crater holds a more familiar fascination for experts. Permafrost, or permanently frozen soil, which has been in that state for at least 4 years, is what created Siberia's crater. Thermokarst is the term for the resulting unsteady landscape of mounds and hollows. According to a study, the crater might give researchers access to information about Siberia's more than 200,000 years of climate change. Sediment will be gathered by scientists in order to study how the terrain evolved as the last ice age's climate warmed and cooled. This might shed light on the current climate change challenges. According to satellite images, the crater enlarges on average 33 feet per year. Melting started in the 1960s as a result of rapid deforestation brought on by development, which removed the trees that provided shade for the frozen soil. As the sun warmed the ground, the ice began to melt. And as the globe has increasingly warmed in recent years due to an increase in greenhouse gases, the creation of the whole has accelerated more recently. The phenomenon of drunken trees, where trees cannot grow straight, is brought on by eroding and melting soil and reduces the amount of shade that covers the ground. Rapidly melting layers of deep silt can force the top layer of soil to fall downward, creating enormous craters that can shatter pavement, swallow whole buildings, and destroy pipelines. Number 9. Resurrecting the dead. Now it has been established that a minuscule worm-like organism that has been called an evolutionary scandal by biologists for having survived for millions of years without having sex has survived in the Siberian permafrost for at least 24,000 years before reproducing. Deloid rotifers are multicellular, exclusively female invertebrates that are well known for their radiation resistance and ability to survive harsh conditions like hunger, low oxygen, and drying. They have also been around for at least 35 million years, and they are still around now in moist terrestrial habitats like moss, lichen, tree bark, and soil. These resilient small creatures, which have a mouth and an anus as well as a complete digestive tract, are able to withstand adverse settings by ceasing all activity and nearly completely arresting their metabolism. Cryptobiosis, which translates to hidden life, is what this is. It's a situation that sort of straddles life and death. The Soil Cryology Lab has already extracted other microscopic creatures from permafrost, including a nematode worm that is 30,000 years old. But in this work, researchers utilize radiocarbon dating to establish that the rotifers found in samples collected from remote Arctic locales via a drilling rig were roughly 24,000 years old, and the creatures might have even survived in the frozen state for an additional 10 years. However, scientists are unsure of the biological processes that enable these small organisms to endure in the ice for such a long time. The research's most spectacular implication, according to Matthew Cobb, a professor of zoology at the University of Manchester who was not involved in the study, is that many creatures that are frozen in permafrost may awaken as a result of global warming. While this doesn't necessarily portend the appearance of terrible creatures out to devour us, it does afford scientists the opportunity to investigate how rotifers have evolved to withstand the damaging effects of freezing and to compare current species to their ancestors. This is especially important for Deloid rotifers, which reproduce through parthenogenesis. The females clone themselves. However, since the genes are all copied down in this situation, there is less variety for natural selection to work with, which is one of the benefits of sex. We now have the opportunity to compare the genomes of these organisms to their contemporary counterparts, which are known from Belgium. That would clarify an important biological mystery and perhaps explain why certain animals have completely given up on sex. Number 8. The mysterious clay head. Strange and gory funeral rituals have been done by many societies throughout history, but few did it better than the ancient Siberian Scythians. The extremely unsettling clay head was found within an old grave in Siberia more than 44 years ago. The head of the item was later shown by X-ray imaging to have a ram's skull implanted deep inside it, making it even odder. The charred bones of 13 to 15 persons were discovered near the 2,100-year-old clay skull in 1968 by Soviet professor Anatoly Martinov. The Tagarsk civilization of South Siberia's Bronze Age is assumed to have been responsible for the burial site discovered in Minusinsk Hollow among the mountains. a nomadic warrior tribe who wreaked havoc along the entire length of the Eurasian steppe from roughly 900 BCE to 200 CE. The Tagarsk are one of the most well-studied groups of the Eastern Scythian cultures. The people of this civilization were basically the prehistoric equivalent of a motorcycle gang, tattooed nomads with mohawks who bravely roamed the Eurasian plains on horses. The vast burials of this ancient civilization, which were frequently scattered across the Eurasian steppe and frequently filled with gold jewelry and weapons, have taught us a great deal about them. However, this discovery was remarkable even by their standards. When archaeologists looked at the clay head for the first time in the 1970s, they thought it might have been a real human skull that had been covered in clay and molded to resemble a human face, a method that had been seen in the region before. However, the shape of the head does not match the interior size of the human skull but is much smaller, the researchers noted, leading them to believe it wasn't genuinely a human skull. It was discovered that the clay head included the skull of a sheep or ram in 2010 by experts from Russia. Researchers have some theories about what this intricate dying rite might represent, even though we may never fully understand its entire importance. Some scientists say that the burial might have been for a guy whose body had not been recovered, either because they vanished, drowned, or got lost abroad. The clay head was used to make a burial doll to symbolize the deceased soul entering the afterlife in place of their corporeal body. The ram skull's use, however, is a little less certain. Rams carried great significance for many ancient peoples, including the ancient Egyptians, nomadic Mongolian civilizations, and other societies throughout Central Asia. It's possible that the ram in this case represented or embodied a certain component of the subject's soul. Number 7. The existence of unicorns. Unicorns indeed exist, but they're not nearly the graceful white horses you assume them to be. An innovative fossil find shows that the extinct Siberian unicorn lived considerably longer than previously believed and coexisted with humans. The Elasmotherium sibericum was thought to have perished 350,000 years ago until a fossilized skull was discovered in Kazakhstan. The fossil was determined to be 29,000 years old by clever carbon dating tests, which determined the age of ancient materials. This means the animals roamed the Earth for 321,000 more years than previously believed. Unfortunately, the Siberian unicorn looked more like a contemporary rhino than the magical animals from children's novels. It measured more than 4 meters long, 1.8 meters tall, and weighed more than 4 tons. It had a shaggy coat and got its name from the enormous horn that protruded from its forehead. Awesome! Now scientists are trying to figure out how the species was able to survive for such a long time compared to other creatures of its sort. According to one of the experts examining the relic, Andrei Shapansky, most likely the south of western Siberia was a haven where this rhino lasted the longest in relation to the rest of its range. Another possibility is that it might go to the southern regions and stay there for a while. However, don't you suppose that this might have been a singular birth defect instead of saying it's proof that the mythical unicorns existed? Number 6. Giant ancient viruses. It's no more news that some enormous old viruses have started thawing out due to melting ice in the Arctic Circle. Mollivirus sibericum, a 30,000-year-old enormous virus discovered in melted Siberian permafrost, is being studied according to researchers. The virus was active and effective at infecting amoebas. Researchers have already discovered large viruses that contradict what we previously believed to be true about the small invaders. The 1200-gene mimivirus discovered in 2003 is twice as wide as conventional viruses. However, it was this newly discovered virus that led a number of news outlets to suggest that once it thawed out, it would escape and infect a large number of people. In terms of the potential risk to humans, Carl Zimmer claimed that we shouldn't be alarmed. He said that the discovery is intriguing for a number of additional reasons, such as what it reveals about viruses in general. Amoeba are infected by these specific viruses, so if you're an amoeba disguising as a human, you should definitely be terrified. Human pathogens have not yet emerged from the Siberian permafrost. This is not to imply that new viruses won't appear, but because there are so many viruses present in living creatures, we should probably not worry too much about these frozen viruses. On the other hand, these viruses are strangely comparable in size to bacteria and around 30 times larger than the usual virus. In addition to its remarkable size, Mollivirus sibericum differs from the bulk of viruses in other ways. For instance, it has more than 500 genes that direct the virus to produce proteins. HIV, on the other hand, only has 9 genes. Although technically speaking, viruses are not regarded to be living, these enormous viruses do appear to possess certain aspects of life, such as a working metabolism. These enormous defrosted viruses will force us to reconsider the properties of viruses if we're ever going to do so. Number 5. Ivan the Terrible's Excalibur. Archaeologists have suggested that a medieval sword discovered buried beneath a birch tree in Siberia may have belonged to Ivan the Terrible. 3 kilometers from the location where it's said that the lieutenant of a Cossack leader who was favored by the Tsar perished, an unusual 12th century blade unearthed in 1975 and dubbed Siberia's Excalibur was discovered. The sword was formerly thought to be a spoil of battle, but a new theory contends that it may have been given by the leader to Ermak Timofeyevich and then given to Ivan Koltso, also known as Ivan the Terrible, whose army seized the region in the 1500s. Ivan the Terrible, who was crowned in Moscow in 1547, rose to prominence as one of history's most cruel tyrants, executing his own son in addition to thousands of people during his final years as Kremlin leader. Ivan Vasilievich, who was born on August 25, 1530, lost his mother when he was 8 years old, and as a result he grew to hate the competing noble families. He launched a devastating campaign after claiming to be the first emperor of Russia in order to seize complete control of the expanding realm. After Siberia, Kazan, and Astrakhan were taken over by Russia, his influence increased and a tightly centralized Russian state was established. The framework for governments established centuries later was developed under his leadership. Even though he was a successful leader, his brutal leadership style made him very unpopular and despised. It is reported that after the passing of his first wife, Ivan suffered from extreme paranoia and sadness. His cruelty prompted him to kill his own son in a fit of wrath, beat his pregnant daughter-in-law into miscarriage, and blind the St. Basil's Cathedral architect so that he would never be able to replicate something so beautiful. He passed away in 1584 after what appeared to be a stroke, leaving his son Fyodor in charge of Russia. Latin letters engraved on the weapon mean, "In the name of the Mother of our Saviour, eternal Lord and Saviour, Christ Jesus Christ." The reverse side reads, "In the name of the Almighty, the Mother of God, in the name of Eternal." The discovered sword appeared to have just sprung from a medieval fairy tale. It was in fact so perfectly kept that you could practically use it right immediately in the fight. Number 4. Unexpected mummy's discovery. In Siberia, the mummified remains of an adult and child who were thought to have lived in the 8th century were discovered. Archaeologists were investigating the region's prehistoric human population, and from the Zeleny Yar burial site in Seleghar, they made this astounding discovery. The mummified bones were discovered next to one another precisely north to south, with their feet pointing toward the river. The origins of the cocoons, made of strong fabric and birch bark, will be revealed through scientific analysis of the bodies. Copper plates extended from top to bottom of the adult cocoon, while tiny pieces of copper pot were scattered around the baby's cocoon. According to experts, the youngster is no more than 6 months old, and a 5 foot 4 inch tall adult is housed inside the adult cocoon. Because it hasn't been opened, it's unknown at this time if they are male or female. It's a mystery that confounds all. Number 3. A frightening, hairy, and icy Arctic gigantic wolf. Scientists discovered a massive, completely preserved wolf's head that still has all of its hair, teeth, ears, and even its brain from the Ice Age. It is thought to have spent 40,000 years frozen in the Siberian permafrost. According to scientists, the ferocious animal would have roamed the countryside together with woolly mammoths and rhinoceros. It was discovered by a local man named Pavel Efimov that was searching for mammoth tusks when he discovered this astounding discovery close to a remote river in Siberia. Since then, researchers have been researching the Ice Age mammal. Compared to the ordinary Siberian grey wolf, whose head is 25 centimeters, this one has a gigantic head that is about 40 centimeters long. It might have hunted large animals like bison because it would have been so large. The wolf would have been between 2 and 4 years old and fully developed when it died. Scientists don't yet know how the wolf died, but they do know that since human hunters didn't exist in the region until roughly 32,500 years ago, they couldn't have killed it. The head and body may have been initially frozen together, but shifting ice later may have caused the separation. Scientists will contrast the wolf from the Ice Age with current wolves, including the grey wolf in Canada's Jasper National Park, to learn more about it. Number 2. Russian dead fetus. The discovery of 248 dead fetuses stored inside industrial barrels in the impoverished Siberian town of Lyavika perplexed Russian officials. A fisherman came upon the horrifying picture of tiny mummified remains, some of which were as old as 22 to 26 weeks gestation. Another horrifying find was made in Lyavika in 2007 when the bodies of 15 women and girls, some of whom were as young as 13 who had been kidnapped by a prostitution ring, were found there. According to officials, the bodies of these aborted or premature infants may have been sold by a human trafficking organization for phony medical or cosmetic treatments. Dr. Darwin Prokop, head of the Institute for Degenerative Medicine at Texas A&M Health Science Center College of Medicine, stated, "It's a terrible story. People in distant lands killing embryos. This has always been true in medicine. Medicine has always had a quack fringe around it." According to Health Day, numerous clinics in China and Ukraine have said that they can use adult stem cells to cure thousands of patients with neurological conditions like multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, spinal cord injury, and Alzheimer's disease. They assert that they have treated everything from autism to cerebral palsy and allergies. The use of fetal stem cells for cosmetic purposes is not supported by science, and stem cell research is a laborious and drawn-out process. "I'm afraid it's only the beginning of things," said Prokop. "People are so overexcited about stem cells and believe that they will cure anything, and people are desperate." Although the field's research is encouraging, the science is not yet developed. Scientists claim that stem cells are somewhat magical and have the capacity to generate new body parts, but they are still working hard to accomplish so in a safe and efficient manner. They are limited to merely demanding that everything pass through systemized studies and the FDA. Crazy treatments can be harmful. When the wrong injections are given for the wrong conditions, people will die. However, many illegal procedures continue to incorrectly assume that fetal cells have rejuvenation abilities to treat sickness or wrinkles. These bogus promises enable medical tourism to flourish. Where did these discarded fetuses originate from, and what were they doing? People could only fill in the blanks with their most irrational fears, since it was so weird. Number 1. Toxic black snow. Several Siberian communities in the Kuzbass region have been receiving black poisonous snow. The region's vast coal fields and badly maintained factories most likely contributed to the ominous meteorological conditions by ejecting coal dust into the air. The precise reason for the black snow has not yet been identified. The area is home to 2.6 million people, many of whom have been impacted by the environmental catastrophe. One coal facility informed the neighborhood media that a shield designed to stop coal powder from escaping the factory had broken down. Residents of the area endure coal dust all year long. The inhabitants' average life expectancy is 3 to 4 years less than the national average for Russia, which is 66 for men and 77 for women. Locals' footage posted on social media shows black snow covering everything in sight, including playground equipment and cars. Although coal dust is constantly present in the area, snowfall absorbs it and makes it visible. One of the greatest coal fields in the world is located in the area, and it's believed that that is what is causing the horrific local weather conditions. 90% of the coal used in Britain comes from Russia, with the remainder coming from the Kuzbass region. In Britain, coal is widely employed in industrial and power plants. The report claims that between 2016 and 2017, the number of environmental disaster-related deaths in Russia climbed by an astounding 11 times. While the rest of the globe warmed up, Russia's temperature rose at a rate that was more than twice as fast as the global average of 0.18 degrees Celsius each decade. Strange times, won't you say? Let us know what you think of these discoveries in the comments section below.